Hello and welcome to How to Model Human Behavior in Digitization. Allow me to start by telling you a little bit about today's webinar and our speakers. To introduce myself, my name is Gerhard Unger, General Manager of Bizagi DACH, based in Munich. I'm joined by Frank Beyer, former BPM Manager of Kyocera. I'll be hosting today's session and we will share some insight into Kyocera that you are about to hear from today. Before we do that, first, why Bizagi has a credible voice within digital transformation. Bizagi offers a digital business platform that has enabled digital process automation programs of over 500 enterprise customers worldwide. We are headquartered in the UK with operations across North America, Europe, and Latin America. Many of you will know us from our continued leadership position in the BPM space, but less of you may understand how our platform is being used for a wider goal. That of helping companies achieve their digital transformation objectives. We simply do this by wrapping their legacy systems with an agile, process-centric application layer, delivering an engaging, connected experience to digitize their processes. Here you see a selected number of customers, of our 500 customers around the globe. They are working with us, and also you can see a few of our key partners. One of the key takeaways, you'll notice that our customers represent a broad range of industries. You should also note that a lot of these companies represent what you may call incumbent players, i.e. large established companies who, by definition, are often those that feel most keenly the challenge represented by younger, so-called born digitals, agile competitors. And that is important to note in relation to some of the content we'll be sharing today. So hopefully that's given you a base understanding of Bizagi. Today's session will be all about Kyocera transformation story and how to model human behavior in digitization. Frank will have a little bit of a walk through that to explain us how Kyocera did that, and we will follow that by a few minutes of some key questions coming from the audience. So with further ado, I would like now to introduce Frank and ask him to introduce a little bit about himself and Kyocera, and we're getting started.
Thank you, Gerhard, for the introduction. It is a pleasure to be speaking here today. Let me start by telling you a little about me and Kyocera. I have been with Kyocera Document Solutions for the past 10 years. In 2012, I became head of BPM for EMEA. During this time, I introduced the Bizagi modeler, and in 2016, I led a successful pilot project using Bizagi Studio for process automation. I've got an engineering degree in telecommunication and an MBA from Beyer School of Management. I left Kyocera end of March, but have got the consent from Kyocera to talk and present today about the pilot project mentioned before. Kyocera is a Japanese multinational electronics and ceramics manufacturer headquartered in Kyoto, Japan. It has got several business divisions and generates about 12 billion euro of sales through a workforce of about 70,000 employees. One of the business divisions is Kyocera Document Solutions that manufactures a wide range of printers, multifunctional printers and toner cartridges for the worldwide market. Its headquarters for Europe is near Amsterdam, where also the Bizagi pilot project that I'm going to speak about took place. The topic of digital transformation is vast, and so are its definitions. With this slide, I like to clarify that the focus of my presentation is on digitizing operations or processes, which I consider central to the many other well-known topics that exist in the digital universe. The definition of digital transformation that you see on the left side, digitizing operations for greater efficiency, is the underlying theme of my presentation and was also the objective for the Bizagi pilot project. What I'm going to share with you is based on 5 years experience with Bizagi, including 2 years with Bizagi Studio. I like to start with categorizing process automation into 3 levels as indicated on the left. Most companies start with process automation by digitizing the data that goes in and out of processes. They manage successfully to go paperless and/or reduce the number of different electronic data sources used along the process. For example, they remove Excel and instead store the core data directly in the system. In the second stage, or maybe even in parallel, they connect their partly automated processes to other systems or sources of new data to increase the degree of automation further and to achieve seamless connectivity. But then they struggle or do not even aim at taking on the final level. That is automating the human activities along the process. They hit what I call the cognitive barrier. I will explain this term in the next slide. In this highest level of process automation, you find disciplines such as data-driven decision-making, cognitive technologies, robotic process automation, and artificial intelligence. The potential in terms of efficiency increase or cost saving in this upper level is, in my view, the highest, because digitizing human activities amplifies the effect of automation that has been achieved in the lower levels, for example, by going paperless and connecting systems. In other words, digitizing human activities removes the weakest link, which is the human interaction. I also believe that for many processes, the resources needed in this higher level are low compared to the other levels. In the lower level, most likely IT investments are required. When it comes to digitizing human activities, only analytical and creative thinking and a system like Bizagi to implement the ideas are required. The winners of the digital age will be those that surpass the cognitive barrier. At the moment, it is a small minority. Uber, eBay, Netflix, just to name a few of them. However, most of the incumbent traditional companies, probably like your own company, are just at the beginning. To understand what I mean with the term cognitive barrier, we need to look at the cognitive skills that characterize human actions. To the left is a simple view of lower and higher cognitive skills. The higher the level, the more difficult it is to automate the related human activities. In other words, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation, and in particular a combination of these 3, do pose a significant challenge for automation. For some companies, it becomes indeed a barrier that they cannot surpass, but for others, the digital winners, it is an opportunity to gain competitive advantage. To the right are some examples of processes requiring these cognitive skills. Starting at the bottom of the list, eBay, for example, leverage machine learning technology to enhance the speed, accuracy, and relevance of search. In the transportation business, Uber efficiently match demand with supply. Similarly, in the entertainment business, Netflix uses machine learning to predict which movies a customer will like. You may recognize that these companies have something in common. They successfully automate the matching of demand with supply to gain their competitive edge. In all industries, we find processes that are about matching demand and supply. For example, running marketing campaigns where information needs to be dispatched automatically to microsegments is another example. Another common process is to respond to RFQs, where customers request a special price quotation. I like to take this RFQ process to continue in more detail. Here you see a generic example of an approval process for a special price request that is similar to the one that we automated at Kyocera. It could also describe the response process to an RFQ. In this example, the key account manager, if you look on the left of the slide, prepares, after initial negotiations with the customer, a special price request in Excel, which he has to send for approval at different levels to the central sales department. To automate the process, the company decides to use Bizagi. After a couple of months, the company may have improved the process significantly. Excel is no longer used to transport the request through the process. The approval levels and routing are controlled. The process is integrated with other systems. Reporting has been improved, etc. But the approval itself still remains a human task, with the associated disadvantages like waiting times that come with human interaction. The company may find it difficult or does not even want to automate the process further. To explain how they could break through this barrier, we need to go in more detail. Imagine the special price request to be approved looks like shown here in this simple example. It exists of 4 products for which the customer requests a certain discount on the normal price. The total size of this potential deal is 60,000 euro after a discount of 33%. After some investigations within the sales department, the process consultant finds out that there are 4 main evaluation criteria normally used for evaluation. 3 discrete ones: total sales, profit, and the percentage of discount, and 1 analog one, in red, the judgment of the strategic importance of this potential deal. The consultant also finds out that the rules how to apply those criteria are not clear. The different approvers take different approaches, for example, attach more importance to one indicator than to others. This leads to different approval decisions for similar requests, and as you can imagine, to frustration at the client side. The consultant decides to clarify the business rules and to introduce a scoring scheme based on those 4 criteria. The scoring scheme will generate a single score with a maximum of 100 points and a complementary scale that converts this single score, into either a rejection, approval, or a verification decision for each case, which will then be sent back immediately to the key account manager, respectively to the client. Now the challenge, but also the beauty of this approach, is to create the entire scoring scheme with all process stakeholders, including top management. Hence, the company, in any case, will obtain clarity as the basis for automation. Let us see how a scoring scheme can be developed. The first step is to define the expected value range for each criterion. What is the maximum and minimum expected value per criterion across all possible cases? Taking the profit in euros as an example, the appropriate range has found to be from negative 250,000 to positive 250,000. Secondly, an intermediate score of 0 to 10 will be assigned to this range. In the third step, the intermediate score will be converted into the final score per indicator. With this conversion, the scoring scheme is made flexible. The total number of criteria and the weighting per criterion can be easily changed this way, keeping the maximum possible score always to 100. For criteria that are analog, like the percentage judgment of the strategic importance, a discrete rating has to be first agreed and defined as shown on the right. The other steps are the same as explained for discrete indicators. Again, this is in any case a fruitful exercise as it will bring clarity into important business rules that may have been gray areas before. Worth mentioning is that the actual rating of analog values into discrete ones, like the strategic importance, remains remains a human task if it's not automated. This is possible if you think on Uber, Netflix, and eBay, but it would require advanced cognitive technologies. This is, however, outside the scope of this presentation. If all previous steps are completed for each criterion, the result will be a scoring scheme that looks like shown on this slide. In this case, we have 4 equally weighted criteria which contribute with up to 25 points each, hence a maximum total of 100 points. With this scoring scheme, the cognitive human skills of analysis, synthesis, and evaluation are applied, and the related human actions can be automated. At Kyocera, we implemented successfully such a scoring scheme in Bizagi Studio for 13 criteria with different weighting factors to generate out of the system recommendations for approval or rejection. This was key to reducing the processing time by up to 80%. Let me summarize in a more generic way the approach that we took, which I also consider a simple way to start with robotic process automation that can be applied by any company. If you want to embark on RPA, robotic process automation, the first step is to select the process that is suitable. For this, you need to observe and evaluate your process candidates or process landscape. A useful framework is the 3V framework from Deloitte. It looks for viable, valuable, and vital processes. Please use the link provided below for further information. The next and probably most time-consuming step is to identify various important aspects. First of all, the business rules need to be identified, as well as the tacit knowledge that is most likely applied to the rules. Furthermore, the conditions for exceptions and the data used along the process need to be identified. Important is to differentiate between analog and discrete data for the reasons I explained before. The business rules then need to be translated into logical expressions. Think on if-then statements. This is a precursor to writing the code in a kind of meta-language in Bizagi Studio. Verify the rules with all process stakeholders and run simulations. As you can imagine, this is an iterative process, but it pays off. If you follow this process, what is the impact of digitizing human activities on the level of process automation? At the very beginning, before any digitization has been implemented, the majority of cases handled along an immature process are most likely treated as exceptions. Tacit knowledge is required at the expense of time. Only a fraction of cases are handled as standard, indicated in green in the graph to the left, but are still being processed by human beings. After the identification and translation of business rules into agreed logical expressions or instructions, the picture changes significantly. As shown in the middle graph, now most of the cases are standard because clear business rules can be applied, which takes less time. Only the small gray part of cases still require exceptional handling, but again, either type is not automated yet. The case handling that follows the newly established business rules, as indicated by the green part in the middle, is now ready for automation. If successful, the standard human activities are carried out by the system, allowing the human resources to focus purely on the processing of the exceptions. In this fictive example, 3/4 of the cases are processed automatically, as indicated in amber. Even if it will be much less, it would be a big step forward. Here a list of benefits that come with digitizing human process activities. Some are obvious, but many are hidden. In addition to the obvious benefits around speed, quality, and time, a hidden but significant benefit is that tacit knowledge that is used along the process will be made transparent and validated. This makes the process much less dependent on the know-how of individuals. Similarly, the variation of the process result is reduced. because digitizing human actions prevents individual bias and the application of unofficial business rules. To digitize a process, you need to specify and clearly structure your data. That requires companies to tap into big data that is most likely available in their local systems but has not been used so far. There are some additional benefits that I like to mention. A fully automated process can be used as a platform to connect to customers or partners. As you know, platforms are a valuable asset in the digital world. Digitizing human activities also provides the basis for artificial intelligence. Even if you do not aim at fully automating the human activities from a traditional process consulting perspective, I would recommend strongly to go through the process of observing, identifying, and translating business rules. It is vital to understand your own business and for your business to understand the digital journey. Before I summarize, I like to give you an idea how logical expressions and hence an entire scoring scheme, as explained before, can be implemented in Bizagi. Here are 3 screenshots from Bizagi Studio. The first one on the left shows the 6-step application development process that is built into Bizagi, where the 4th step allows to define business rules for each process step, as shown in the upper screenshot on the right. Using a C#-like programming language, as indicated in the lower picture to the right, also complex business rules can be implemented easily. For the pilot project, we developed about 20 expressions with several hundred lines of code. In sum, here's what I have shared with you today. I introduced the term of cognitive barrier and how it prevents companies to fully automate processes. I explained how to break through this barrier, taking the steps observe, identify, and translate. Drawing on the experience from the pilot project at Kyocera, I showed how a scoring scheme can be set up to digitize the human activities related to analysis, synthesis, and evaluation using Bizagi Studio. The key message is that considering the significant benefits, the presented approach is an effective way to embark on RPA. I would like to thank Mansoor Aran Purwalla and Ankit Verma from Kyocera for the valuable input to this presentation. Thank you very much for your attention and your time.
Thank you, Frank, for this impressive insight into how human process activities and cognitive barriers drives the success of digitization. Absolutely fantastic. Now, it is time now for our Q&A sessions. Hopefully the most valuable part, so if you haven't submitted your question, then please do so now. So let me pick the first question here. Frank, are you ready? Here it comes.
Yes.
How do process stakeholders react if you talk about automating their activities?
Okay, thank you for this question. Conscious of the time, I can only give a brief answer. Obviously, change management is an important element in the entire journey of digital transformation. To keep the people that are involved in this journey motivated and gain their support, you have to give them 2 things, time and choice. Time means gradually increase the degree of automation so they can adapt to the change and understand the benefits like removing repetitive tasks. Choice means to digitize the process in a way so that people still have the control. For example, you can design a system such that they can decide when the system is autonomously taking decisions and when it is only generating recommendations, for example, through defining thresholds. Giving them both time and choice is possible with the combination of the approach I presented and Bizagi Studio.
Okay. So based on the time we have, we can have one more question. You mentioned artificial intelligence. Even if this is out of the scope of our presentation, could you expand a little bit onto this?
Okay, so I have to keep it simple, the answer, because it's a complex topic again. For example, it would be possible to develop the presented scoring scheme into a self-learning mechanism. if you feed it with information about the impact of cases that the system has automatically approved. If, for example, you find out from your connected SAP system that certain customers do request special prices but do not buy the requested amount of products, the system could establish on its own a kind of blacklist over time. So this is, if you want, to some extent already a self-learning, hence an artificial intelligence system. That hopefully should, at least given the time, answer the question.
Absolutely, thank you for that. Thank you guys for your interaction there. We have a couple more questions, but with the time we have, we need to move on. We will try and respond to questions we didn't get to today. We'll reply emails after the event closes out. So let me just thank David for this content today, and of course, you, the audience, for hanging in there throughout the webinar. I and Bizagi hope you found the session to be of value. I did, definitely. You'll find a wealth of useful information at bizagi.com, including how to join our next live demonstration, giving you a chance to see Bizagi in action, how to download Bizagi for free test usage today. And for those of you who want more insight on best practices, you'll find a bank of fantastic content, from white papers to webinars to customer case studies. So many thanks again for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of the week. And thank you for watching.